Let me start the recording again and let me share my screen quickly. So basically we were talking about the architecture, right? We were talking about there are two kinds of architecture in any technology. We were talking about the Azure architecture. So we have something called as physical architecture and we have something called as logical architecture. So these are two types of architecture that any technology has. Now, if I talk about the physical architecture, in physical architecture at the very top, we have got, guys, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah,
Yes,
we can able to hear you. Yes.
Yeah, Gaurav, I believe everyone is able to hear me. I think one gentleman is unable to hear. So basically,
Yeah,
in
you can
physical,
proceed, sir. We can able to hear.
yeah, is in physical architecture, we have got at the very top, we have got something called as regions. Now, what are regions? Regions are nothing but the physical places where Microsoft have deployed their data centers. Every region is nothing but group of data centers. So group of data centers, Microsoft represent as one region. In one particular region, minimum we will have two data centers and we can have multiple as well. So minimum it would be two and maximum there could be multiple. How many regions Microsoft has got? They has got 60 plus regions. So across the globe, they have deployed their data centers and group of data centers they refer as one region. And they have got 60 plus regions across the globe. And they have got 60 plus regions across the globe. And they are providing services across 140 countries. And they are providing services across 140 countries. Right? Now, after regions, they have got something called as availability zones. Now, we need to remember 3 points regarding availability zones. Point number 1, out of 60 plus regions, all the regions do not contain availability zone. Out of 60 plus region, approximately around 15 to 17 regions contains availability zone. Now, the question that may come across your mind is how we would be able to figure it out, that which particular region contains availability zone and which region do not contain availability zone. So I am sharing you a Microsoft doc. If you go through this Microsoft doc, you can easily figure it out which region contain availability zone and which region do not contain availability zone. The name of the regions are, it's like this: East US, West US, UK South, South India, etc., etc., etc. So these are the names of the regions. So out of 60 plus regions, approximately 15 to 17 regions contain availability zones. So if you have a look here, if you go through this Microsoft doc that I have shared in the chat window, if you scroll it down, here it clearly says Azure regions with availability zones. So what are the regions which contains availability zones? So they have defined it here, that these are the regions which contains availability zone. Question number 2, what is the benefit of availability zone? With the help of availability zone, we can achieve better redundancy. Better redundancy can be achieved with the help of availability zone. Right? And point number 3, any region that contain availability zone. So let's say out of 15 to 17 region, East US is one of the region which contain availability zone. It is a region which contain availability zone. Any region that contain availability zone will have 3 zones inside it. It will have zone 1, it will have zone 2, and it will have zone 3. So any region that contain availability zone will have 3 zones inside it. Zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Usually one zone is separated to another zone by a physical distance of around 10 to 15 miles. They are physically separated by a distance of around 10 to 15 miles. Right? And all the zones are interconnected to each other. So zone 1 is connected to zone 2, zone 2 is connected to zone 3, and zone 3 is connected to zone 1. Right? So they are connected to each other. They are connected to each other. Right? After availability zone, we have got something called as data centers. As we discussed, in every region, we have minimum 2 and we can have multiple data centers. So assuming in every region, we have got multiple data centers, right? And then in every data center, we will have multiple racks where actually the resources will be hosted. We will have multiple racks where actually the resources will be hosted, right? So we'll have multiple data centers and we might have multiple racks. So this is how the physical architecture of the Azure looks like. That is how the physical architecture of the Azure looks like, right? Now let me explain you the logical architecture. Or before we come to the logical architecture, anyone guys, any one of you has any questions, any queries regarding the physical architecture? Any confusion, any clarity required on the physical architecture?
Can you please explain this zone concept?
Yeah. See, let me explain you diagrammatically. Let's say we can consider this as one region. This we can consider as one region. Maybe we are considering this as East US region. So any region that contain availability zone will have 3 zones. Now, if I give you a very layman terms example, let's say this zone is in one particular state. Let's say it's in Mumbai. In Mumbai, we may have 3 places which are physically separated to each other, maybe by a distance of around 10 to 15 miles. I'm just giving an example, maybe Andheri East, Andheri West, and maybe you can take one more, right? So basically, when we say zones, these zones are physically separate locations. They are physically separated to each other by a distance of around 10 to 15 miles. And in every zone, we may have one data center, and in every zone, we may have multiple data centers, right? So East US is a region which contain availability zone. This is zone 1, this is zone 2, and this one is zone 3. In every zone, minimum, we will have one data center. So this is one data center in zone 1. Similarly, we have data center in zone 2 and data center in zone 3. As we discussed, the zones are connected to each other. They are connected via fiber optic cable, a dark fiber optic cable. And in every zone, we will have racks where actually the resources will be hosted, where we will be deploying the VMs, where we will be deploying the databases, firewalls. So they will be hosted on the racks. So that is how the physical architecture of a region look like, which contains availability zone. So does it give you better clarity? Like how does it look like?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And dark fiber means
I have one question.
how it will connect zone 1 and zone 3 and zone 2
via fiber optic cable.
Okay, fiber optic.
Via
Okay, thank you.
dark fiber optic cable.
Dark fiber
I have
optic
one
means.
question.
It's a physical cable via which they are connected.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Microoptic fiber means. Yes, I know that. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, you're welcome, sir. Yeah, please.
What
go
about
ahead.
the region? What about the regions? Example, you explained with the zones, but in the same scenario, if I want to go for the data center, in one is in US and one is in UAE. So, can you explain in that region?
Basically, you are saying you want to deploy an application. Maybe same application you want to deploy for the UAE users, and same application you want to deploy for the US users. Am I correct?
No. Actually, example, I have the data center. The option I have selected at the fiber in UAE because my implementation and my the user access, everything will be more in Gulf countries. So I will host it in UAE data center. But I want the disaster recovery. The second, it's supposed to be US. I will select example.
So usually we don't put it that far, but yes, maybe you can say you are putting your application servers, your database servers in UAE, and maybe you want your site recovery, right? Or you want your BCDR, maybe let's say somewhere in Middle East. We can do that. So that is, for that we need a particular service. There is a service called as Recovery Service Vault. When we go inside Recovery Service Vault, we get two options. We get an option for backup and we get an option for ASR. ASR stands for Azure Site Recovery. So by using this option, we can do a site recovery, right? But that is not the topic for today. So when we will be doing the complete training, we will be talking about the site recovery. So this is a service that we need to make use of. We would have deployed our application servers, our networks, everything in UAE, and using the site recovery, we can create the disaster recovery site in Middle East. We would be able to create the disaster recovery site in Middle East. That is how we can do it. Any questions sir, regarding this?
No, thank you.
So basically, this is a complete topic that will take like 1 or 2 hours for the entire discussion. So that is something which is
Sorry
not
for
a,
the interruption.
uh,
Hello.
yes, please go. You're not audible, sir. Your voice is not. Your voice is breaking. Please check your internet connection. I'm unable to hear you.
Zone 3 and zone 2 also having some data.
Sir, you are
Yeah.
not audible. Actually, your voice is breaking a lot. Okay, so let's put the question and the answer around in the end. So guys, I'll give you some time at the question and the answer. Let me, sir, I'll come back to you. Actually, I was unable to hear you. So I'll come back to your question, right? Just allow me some time. Okay, now let's talk about the logical architecture. Let's talk about the logical architecture. Now, what is logical architecture? Guys, if you have any questions, maybe you can make a note of it. I'll give you some time at the end of the session. We will have a question and the answer round, and I'll give you some time so that you would be able to ask your questions. So in logical architecture, how do we start the journey? We start the journey by creating the Azure account. Maybe it could be my personal account. Maybe I can say jitin@outlook.com could be my Azure account. It could be my corporate account. Let's say if I am working for an organization called as Facebook, jitin@facebook.com could be my Azure account. So if we want to make use of Azure, we first need to start by creating a Azure account. Just because we have created the Azure account does not mean that we would be able to create the resources. Just because we were able to create the Azure account doesn't mean that we would be able to create the resources. So whenever I say resources, I'm trying to say virtual machine, virtual network, database, firewall. So these are considered as the resources. Just because I've got the Azure account, I cannot create the resources. In order to create resources, I need something called as subscription. Maybe I can have a subscription with the name subscription number 1. Now, subscription is the billing boundary. Whatever resources you deploy inside the subscription, the billing of those resources would be going to its respective subscription. The billing of the resources would be going to its respective subscription, right? So we need to have a subscription. Without having a subscription, we cannot create a resource. After subscription, we need to create something called as resource group. It's nothing but a logical container inside which we can keep the metadata of the resources. It is nothing but a logical container inside which we can have the metadata of the resources. So whenever we create a resource group, we need to have a subscription, maybe subscription number 1. Inside this, we will be creating a resource group. So whenever we'll be creating a resource group, we have to give it a name. Maybe my resource group is RG1. My resource group is RG1. The name, you can give it any name. My resource group for HR team, resource group for location 1, whatever naming convention you want to use. And then you have to define the region, in which region you would like to deploy this resource group. So few minutes back in the physical architecture, we discussed that we have got more than 60 plus regions. In physical architecture, we discussed that we have got more than 60 plus region. So in which region you want to deploy the resource group, you can define it from here. Maybe let's say I would like to deploy the resource group in East US region. I would like to deploy the resource group in East US region, right? And after this, you would be able to deploy a resource. After this, you would be able to deploy a resource. Maybe you want to deploy a virtual machine. Maybe you want to deploy a virtual machine. So in order to deploy a virtual machine, in order to deploy a resource, first of all, you need to have a subscription. Subscription number 1. Then you need to have a resource group. I have got RG1, which is in East US. Then you have to give a name to your resource. Maybe you have to give it a name VM number 1. And then you can define the region. And then you can define the region. In which region you would like to deploy this? In which region you would like to deploy this? So maybe I can say that we can deploy this in the East US region. Right? So that is how we would be able to deploy a resource. There is one more hierarchy above the subscription. That is something which we call as management group. That is something which we refer as management group. Now, what is management group? What can we achieve with the help of management group? If you want to achieve governance, if you want to achieve compliance in your organization, how can you achieve governance and how can you achieve compliance? By putting some policies. In case of on-premise, we have something called as group policies. In case of Azure, we have something called as Azure policies. So with the help of management group, we can apply policies at scale. We can apply policies at scale. We can apply policies at a large level. Second thing, with the help of management group, we can manage multiple subscription. With the help of management group, we can manage multiple subscription. So these things we can achieve with the help of management group. Sometimes people ask, can we have multiple subscription inside one Azure account? Absolutely. We may have multiple subscription inside one Azure account. Absolutely possible, right? Absolutely possible. So that is regarding the logical architecture. That is regarding the logical architecture. Now, let me take you to the course outline again. So basically what we will be covering in this particular course, we'll be talking about how to create virtual networks, how to create VMs, how to deploy the resources in Azure with the help of automation, how to do load balancing, network security, how to implement storage accounts. Basically with the help of storage accounts, we can store a lot of data inside the storage account. There are different types of storages, blob storage, file shares, databases. Maybe we can create a NoSQL database. We can have the message or a queue storage inside which we can store messages. So all these things can be done with the help of storage accounts. Then we can implement Azure Active Directory. In case of on-premise, we have something called as Windows Server Active Directory, with the help of which we can create users, we can create groups, right? We can authenticate, we can do authorization. Same thing in Azure can be done with the help of Azure AD, or we call that as Azure Active Directory. Then we have something called as implementing and managing Azure governance solutions. Implementing and managing Azure governance solutions, right? So basically with the help of this, we can manage the Azure governance solutions. Same governance that we were talking about. What is physical architecture? What is logical architecture? How can we implement policies? What are different types of policies? We have something called as policy definition. We have something called as initiative definition. At what levels we can apply the policy? Will policies be inherited down the line or not? Can we put some exclusion list? So it talks about the governance part. Then it talks about managing the hybrid identities. Let's say you have got 5,000 users in on-premise. Now you have created some users in Azure Active Directory. So how can you sync the users from on-premise to Azure Active Directory? It talks about that. How can we authenticate the on-premise user when they are trying to access a cloud application? So it talks about the hybrid identities. Module 9, it talks about how can we manage workloads in Azure. Right? Module 10, it talks about cloud infrastructure monitoring. How can we do monitoring? How can we collect the events? How can we collect matrices? How can we collect logs? How can we create alerts? So it talks about all that part. Module 11 talks about managing security for the application. So we can deploy an application directly. We can deploy the web application as well. if we are deploying the application, how we would be able to control the security of that application, it talks about that. Module 12, how can we deploy the application infra? What is web app? What is function app? What is logic app? It talks about all that part. Module 13 talks about container-based applications. So earlier we were deploying the applications with the help of a code. Now we can deploy the application with the help of containers. Inside the container, a Docker image would be running. So how can we do all this part? Where can we store those Docker images? So it talks all those parts. What is Azure Kubernetes service? It talks all that part, right? It's an orchestration service. Module 14 talks about how can we implement a NoSQL database? What is Cosmos DB? What are the different APIs we can get with the Cosmos DB? Right? It talks about all that part. Module 15 talks about the SQL databases. How can we implement a SQL database? How can we protect the security of a SQL database using Key Vault? So this is what all we will be covering in this particular course. And then when you'll be appearing for the certification, so from this area, from monitoring and Azure application infrastructure, you will be receiving somewhere around 50 to 55% of the questions. From management and security solutions, 25 to 30%. From solution for apps, 10 to 15%. Implementing and managing data platforms, 10 to 15%. This is the percentage of questions you may expect during the certification. We will be doing a lot of labs during the particular course, right? So we would be doing good amount of labs for this particular course as well. Now guys, I give you like 10 to 15 minutes so that you can ask your questions. I think few people have some questions which they were unable to ask earlier. So now I'm giving you the question and the answer round. If you have any questions, any queries, can we transfer subscription from one tenant to another tenant? Sudarshan, yes, that is possible. Let me show you practically as well. Let me answer your query practically. See, if you go to the Azure account, first of all, you need to have an Azure account. Inside the Azure account, if you want to transfer the subscriptions, you need to have multiple tenants. You need to have multiple Azure Active Directories. You need to have multiple tenants. And then answer is yes, we can transfer the subscription from one tenant to another tenant. That is possible, right? So answer to your question is yes. Let me just log into my Azure account and then probably I would be able to show it to you practically as well. So Darshan, I hope in the meantime it answers your query that we can transfer the subscription from one tenant to another tenant. See, I'm logged into my account. If I go to Azure Active Directory, this is Azure Active Directory. If I go to Azure Active Directory, I have got multiple tenants in the Azure Active Directory. So if this is my Azure Active Directory, and if I click on Manage Tenants, I hope you can see here, I have got multiple tenants. I have got 4 tenants, I believe. In this particular Azure account, I have got 4 tenants. One tenant is default directory, second Jitin Singh, third Jitin Training, fourth one is Jitin Singh in small letters. Now, if I type here subscription, although my subscription would be disabled here, if I type here subscription, we would be able to see our subscription. This is subscription number 7. If you go to the subscription number 7, you will see that this subscription number 7 is associated with which tenant? Tenant with the name Jitin Training. If I want to change the association with a different tenant, I can click on change directory and I can associate this with a different tenant. And I can associate this with a different tenant altogether. I can say I understand and I can say change. That's how the tenant will be changed for the subscription. Darshan, I hope it answers your query. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Wonderful. So one gentleman has a question: in a single zone, can we have multiple data centers? Absolutely. One zone will have minimum 1 data center. We may have multiple data centers inside a zone. Absolutely possible. Right. So guys, over to you now. Please go ahead and ask your questions and queries so that I would be able to address them.
So yeah, let us take, I need to spin up a VM in a ESTS. As I said, the ESTS has the availability zones. The impact of the cost.
What is the impact? What is the impact of the cost? Right?
Yeah, will it enforce me to take the availability zone, or can I put it in a single region or single data center?
how many you can see, even when we are putting it in availability zone, still the machine will be deployed in one data center. What happens is when you want better redundancy, then you use a concept of availability zone. Let's say East US is a region which contains availability zone. It will have 3 zones: zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. And they are physically separated to each other by a distance of around 10 to 15 miles. If you want better redundancy for your machine, or maybe let's say you deployed VM number 1 in zone 1, on which you are running application number 1, right? Inside zone 1, there will be one data center inside which this machine is running. Now, please tell me, if the data center goes down, would you be able to access the application?
No.
No. Are we redundant? No. Condition for using availability zone is minimum we need to deploy 2 machines, minimum 2, and those machines should be running on a different zones. So VM1 we are running in application 1, VM1 we are running in zone 1 where we are running application 1, VM2 we will be running in zone 2 where we will be running application 1. Now they are physically separated. VM1 is running on data center 1 in zone 1. VM2 is running on a different data center altogether, which is a part of zone 2. So now if zone 1 data center goes down, would my application be available?
Yes.
Yes. So are we redundant? Yes. But for how many machines we have to pay? We are paying for 2 machines.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So that is the impact on the cost. So whenever you are looking for a architecture or for a solution that is highly redundant or that is highly secure, it comes with a cost. It would be coming with a cost. Does it answer your query, sir?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, please
This
go
all
ahead. I think.
mentioned- Yeah, this all mentioned subject. You would take how many days to cover, and what is the duration of this course?
Yeah, so official, see, let me explain this. See, official duration of this course is 40 hours. The course official duration is 40 hours when we are doing a corporate training, right? So when we do a corporate training, basically we do training dedicatedly for 5 hours, 5 days, and 8 hours every day. Sir, request to please tell me. Harishankar Gupta, please tell me. Okay. So when the official duration is 40 hours, when we do a corporate training for 5 days continuously, 8 hours every day. Now, when we do 8 hours every day, so basically what we do is we give some time, we give some time for the break. So there are 3 breaks. Right? And apart from that, at end of every day, we give 1 hour to the participants to do the labs. Whatever lab we will do in a given day, at the end of every training, at the end of every day, we allocate 1 hour to the participants to do the labs. So usually we spend somewhere between 5 to 6 hours every day. Right? So if you multiply like this 5 to 6 hours, so somewhere around between 20 to 25 hours, we would be able to cover up this training. In between 20 to 25 hours, we would be able to cover up the training. So I hope it gives you an answer, like how much time it will be required to complete the training.
For me, it's not possible to attend 5 hours or 6 hours every day.
Yeah, that is why I'm trying to say it's not possible normally for the participants to spend 8 hours every day. So what we usually do a 2 to 3 hour session. In this 2 to 3 hour session, we hardly give a break for 10 to 15 minutes, right? So this time that we were spending in the corporate trainings, we are able to save this time. Plus breaks we would not be giving you, less number of breaks will be there, like probably there could be 1 break for 10 to 15 minutes. Plus this 1 hour for doing the labs, we would not be allocating this during the training. So once the session is over, maybe you can go back to your system and you can do the labs. So since we are able to save this time, That is the reason we would be able to cover up this training in 20 to 25 hours. Right? So we'll be doing it for 2 to 3 hours, maybe during weekends, or 1 hour every day, maybe during weekdays. That is how we usually do. Does that answer your query, sir?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other question in the query, guys?
Yes, I have one question. I'm running some applications which are using a SQL database, and those applications are quite legacy, like they're using a SQL 2008 or SQL 2005. I tried Azure SQL DB and manage instance, and they doesn't support this one. Now I have Azure VM with SQL, but the problem is that VM is standalone, and I have a proper backups of the VMs and the backup of the SQL database. But if I go for like the high availability of this SQL server, then I need to create domain controllers and another VMs, and that's quite complex. Is there any way that we can have a clone copy of that VM like in the same, and we will not make a cluster? Because I know Microsoft cluster is like sometime behave like a shit, so I don't want to be go in that part, and I don't want to be create domain controller only for the cluster. What do you say to make it high available a machine which has like a application on that one?
So why don't you just upgrade your application? Is it not possible to upgrade the application?
No, I mean it's a healthcare application, and you know that it's a government application. You cannot do the upgradation, and it's not possible in many environments, like they're using the legacy applications.
So basically it is the application limitation, am I correct?
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, then maybe you can go with your with the domain controller, maybe then you would be able to achieve the high availability. Because usually if in case it is not an application limitation, then we can easily use a PaaS service. Maybe you can have the Azure SQL database, which you try to use, or maybe the managed instance.
Yeah, I tried both already, but the problem is that it's not working. The reason is that even you cannot take the backup of SQL database into backpack file, because the databases are like reference to each other, and Azure SQL DB doesn't support that, you know that.
Absolutely, sir. So
So-
basically, I would say it's the application limitation. So nothing much can be done. So
Yeah.
either we can go with the domain controller scenario, or we can try to upgrade the application.
Okay, thank you.
So guys, I am the corporate trainer, but I have good amount of technical experience. I have worked on multiple projects. I have worked on with Microsoft Team as well in the past, right? So I have good amount of technical exposure. I can say the production exposure. So I think that answers your query, Jayavardhan, and I think the same Yusuf also has the same query.
Can we get the assistance for the real-time assistance as well? Like if
Sorry.
you face any issues in the, can we get the assistance on that?
Can you get what? Can you get the real time?
If you are working on a real-time the project, can we get the assistance? Like if you are stuck in any of the issue in the project, can we get any
Absolutely.
assistance on that?
On paid basis, you may get the assistance. Absolutely. So there will be an assistance provided, but there will be a separate cost for the same. So within that training cost, absolutely it cannot be included. If you want to get a real-time project support, we do provide that, but there will be a different charge altogether for the same.
I think for the earlier case where one person had asked about this SQL database, right? If I'm not wrong, the SQL database which you're hosting is currently on-premise, or
He was hosting the application database, the SQL database in Azure. The gentleman has created a virtual machine in Azure. While creating a virtual machine, he has used the image of a SQL database. So he's hosting this in Azure as of now.
so he said that it's difficult to take the backup of that virtual machine hosted in VM.
I think the gentleman has a altogether different question. So
Okay, no issue.
yeah,
I thought
if you have any questions like which you have experienced, probably you can try to ask for the same. So he has a question like legacy application not supporting the managed instance, right? So how can we arrange the high availability? So altogether a different question. It was not about the backup.
yeah, sure. So and one more thing, sir, final from my end. 104, if you go ahead and enroll this AZ 303, will it cover the AZ 104 as well in depth?
Absolutely. See, content of AZ 104 will automatically be covered in AZ 303. Absolutely. Does that answer your query, sir?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
So guys, for the enrollment process, you can get in touch with Amit. This is the Amit's contact number. He's available on WhatsApp on this number, or you can reach out to him via phone call as well. So he's available on this number on WhatsApp as well. So maybe you can take a picture, or I have shared his number in the chat window as well. Right? So he is the right person who would be able to help you out in onboarding you onto the course. Regarding the cost part, regarding the timings part, he is the right guy who would be able to help you. So I'm sharing his number again in the chat window, or maybe you can see it on my screen. You can take a picture of it and you can reach out to him in order to enroll you for
So
the
like,
course.
yeah, like any idea from when the training will start?
So usually we started from the next week. There will be like 2 batches, weekend and weekday batches. So as per your availability or as per your convenience, you would be able to enroll you for the right batch, maybe for the weekend batch or for the weekday batch.
Is it possible to transfer Hyper-V server to Azure?
Yes, it is possible to transfer Hyper-V virtual machines to Azure. That can be done using the migration. You need to use a service called as Azure Migrate in Azure. Using Azure Migrate service, you can create an Azure Migrate project. And from there, we can choose that we are running the machines in the Hyper-V environment, right? Okay. So we can do that. There will be agentless or there can be agent-based migration. There are 2 migration that we would be able to do, agentless or agent-based. We can either use Microsoft tool to do the migration, or we can use a third-party tool as well. So right, we may create a replication appliance. We may create inside the replication appliance, we can create a replication appliance if we want to go with the agent base, or we can create the Azure Migrate appliance if we want to go with agentless. Possible. Answer to your question is possible.
Sorry, I forgot your name. After completing the course, yeah, please.
My name is Jitin.
Okay. Okay, so after this course, how many years you can put as an experience?
That entirely depends upon you, sir. So how you would be able to project it. Yeah. So it entirely depends upon you.
Sir, while we are working, sir, while we are discussing on this the migration topic, like the earlier one of our folk has asked, will it cover that scenarios as well, like the on-premises to Azure migration?
Yeah,
with
so
any
basically, whenever we have on-premise, we can have 3 scenarios in on-premise. Whenever we have on-premise and whenever we are trying to do a migration from on-premise, there can be 3 scenarios. In on-premise, you may want to migrate the physical service, or you may have a VMware environment. Guys, request you, those do not have a query, please put your mute. Just give me a moment, please. Okay. So we may have 3 types of environment. We may have physical servers, we may have VMware VMs which are running in the Hyper ESSi host, or you may have a Hyper-V environment. Okay. So these are the 3 types of environment we can have when we are trying to do a migration. So basically, yes, we can migrate the on-prem physical servers, or we can migrate the VMs that is running in VMware environment, or we may migrate the servers which are running into the Hyper-V. All 3 is possible.
Sure, so thank you.
Kiran, if you're working as a Windows admin and now you're interested in Azure, I think 303 would be a better course. You can offer 303. You will get the understanding of the administration. Along with that, you will get the understanding of creating the architecture. If you just want to go with the administration, then you can go with AZ 104. But if you want to go an extra mile, maybe after administrator, you also want to understand the architectural components, then you can go with AZ 303. So you can choose in between AZ 104 and AZ 303. My recommendation would be 303 would be better as compared to 104.
So what's the major thing that will get covered with AZ 303 when we compare with AZ 104?
Migration is not a part of it. Container-based applications, serverless computing is not a part of it. And things will be covered in more detailed manner. In networking as well, we'll be covering more topics. For example, site to site, we talk about front door, we talk about more things in easy. So migration
Okay.
will be covered, serverless applications will be covered, container-based applications, Kubernetes will be covered, right? And we will be covering networking as well in detail. We'll be covering the hybrid identity as well, which we only discuss in AZ 104. We do not do a practical implementation, but here we will do a practical implementation.
Yeah. Okay. Sir. Yeah.
Key vault would be covered as well.
Sir, actually, particularly, I'm looking for Azure Active Directory in depth. Will it be covered in AJ 303?
Absolutely, it will be covered in a very detailed manner.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
I have one question.
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
My question is, what kind of knowledge level do we need for networking part?
You need to have a basic
both the
understanding of knowledge. What are virtual networks? What is IP, private IP, public IP? Need to have a basic understanding of class A, class B, class C, class D, class C, right? So very basic understanding of networking, TCP IP. If you have that understanding, easily you would be able to pick up networking.
So let's say if somebody has CCNA part, that would be.
That would be more than enough.
More than enough. Okay, great. Thank you.
What are the prerequisites for this certification? I mean,
there are no prerequisites for this AZ 303. Microsoft recommends you can go with AZ 900 before going for that, but that is not a prerequisite. You may go for it, you may not go for it. It would be your choice. Right? So there is no such prerequisite. Prerequisite is you need to have a basic understanding of networking, like TCP, IP, DNS, basic understanding of what is identity, what is username, what is domain name. So you need to have a basic understanding of these things.
And,
so that means to give an exam that I don't have to certify something like AZ 900, AZ 104.
Not required.
Okay.
And one last question I have: would you be going deep dive into the every part of this course?
Absolutely, we'll be discussing it at a very technical level. And still, you feel that we need to cover more ground. Maybe you may ask questions, and I would be able to answer them. So we'll be covering things in a very detailed manner.
Oh, thank you.
Any questions, any queries, anything, guys? So for the last time, I'm sharing you this contact details of Amit. He's the right guy who would be able to help you out in order to onboard you, in order to enroll you for the course. His contact number is +91 9540 662 806. He is available on the same number on WhatsApp as well. You can reach out to him. He will be the best person who will be able to help you with the timings, with the course fee, and what all you will get during a course. Okay?
I couldn't find that number on WhatsApp.
Not possible. Maybe you just try to see
this.
It's
there. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's fine. Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Any questions, any queries, guys, before we call it a day? That is all from mine for today. It was really nice interacting with you all. If you have any questions, any queries, please feel free to ask, or else we can call it a day. So I'm stopping the recording as we are done with the discussion.